Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Shenanigans. I'm your host, Michael Wong, and today we'll be talking about... my jaw hurts. Who am I kidding? I can't do an episode like this.
Hey guys, I'm your host, Michael Wong. Well, it's been a crazy couple weeks for me. I had wisdom tooth surgery, and because of that, you'll remember that I couldn't give you an episode last week. But now I've been recovering, and I am ready to give you another episode of This Week in Shenanigans. Buckle your seatbelt. Now, this week, a lot of crazy stuff's been happening, especially in the NFL, and today I want to make that the focus of our episode. But first, there has been some news outside of sports that I do want to address, so let's get to our very short News of the Week segment. Unfortunately, I am going to have to start out with some heavy news. I know the purpose of the show is to be comedic and laid back, but sometimes we just got to take a step back and recognize a tragedy for what it's worth. On Wednesday, a shooter opened fire inside Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis. 2 children were killed and 18 more were injured. Now, let us take a moment to recognize the weight of this tragedy. I call on all my listeners to pray for the families of the victims and all others who have been affected by this. If you would like to monetarily support the families of the victims, text ACF1 to 4144. That's A as in Apple, C as in Charlie, and F as in Frank, and then the number 1 to 4144. You will be given a link to donate to the families of the victims. Alternatively, the link to donate will be available in the description of this episode, regardless if you listen on Spotify or YouTube. Next up, we have some election news. I know this is an off year for elections, but we have a special vote called for by the California state government. For some context, I'll need to explain the House of Representatives to you. The House of Representatives is one of 2 legislatures in the United States Congress. It is composed of 435 members, each representing a district inside the United States. California has 52 congressional districts, and every 2 years they elect a representative to send to Congress to represent them. However, this year, California Governor Gavin Newsom wants to redraw the boundaries of these districts in order to increase the representation of his political party in Congress. Whether or not you support his attempt to do so, I encourage all my California-based listeners to vote in this election coming November 4th. If you are a U.S. citizen and California resident over the age of 18 and are not registered to vote, there is a link in the description of this episode on both Spotify and YouTube where you can register online to vote. If you are 16 or 17 years old, you can use the same link to pre-register to vote. That way, when you turn 18, you will be automatically added to the list of California registered voters. That's going to do it for the news of the week. Now let's get into the sports news. Oh my goodness, there has been so much happening this week. Where do I even start? I guess we should be talking about the big dumper Cal Raleigh as he continues to have an historic season with the Seattle Mariners. On Sunday, August 24th, Cal Raleigh hit his 49th home run of the season against the homeless Athletics. I say homeless because they don't really have a home right now. Anyways, back to the point. Until this point, the MLB record for most home runs in a season by a catcher was set by Salvador Perez with the Kansas City Royals in 2021. That year, he hit 48 home runs, but now Cal Raleigh has broken it with 49. And to double down, the next day he hit his 50th home run against the Texas Rangers. Man, what a guy. He's coming off of an MVP caliber season last year where he hit 34 home runs and got 100 RBIs. But who could have predicted the historic season he's having now? And to top it all off, I actually have Cal Raleigh on my fantasy baseball team. So, I'm happy. But, man, congratulations to you, Cal Raleigh. Keep blasting dingers, and maybe, just maybe, one day you'll have the most home runs in a season out of everybody. I know Barry Bonds' record of 73 seems kind of unreachable for him even now, with only a month left in the season, but I don't hold that in as high regard personally because, in case you don't know, Barry Bonds was on a lot of steroids. But when he hit the season home run record in 2001, steroids, well, we didn't think about them as bad as we do today. Anyways, that's why I just don't really hold that record in high regard. So if Cal Raleigh makes it to like 60 or 65 homers this year, I would say that he deserves to be remembered for generations because of this season, if not already. Next up, we got some golf to talk about. The PGA Tour season just wrapped up with the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta. On Sunday, August 24th, same day as Cal Raleigh, what a coincidence, we got our 2025 PGA Tour champion, and it is the Englishman, Tommy Fleetwood. Now here's the crazy thing. Tommy Fleetwood has been on tour for years, and yet he has never won a single PGA Tour tournament. He has won 7 times on the DP World Tour and 3 other times around the world. At last year's Olympic Games in Paris, Fleetwood placed second, falling short of the American Scotty Scheffler. But now, Tommy Fleetwood finally has his moment in the spotlight in America. He had a great performance the entire tournament, finishing a total of 18 under across 4 rounds, with a final round of 2 under. And if you don't play golf, that's pretty good. Like, I've played golf for years and years. I'm still barely shooting like 10 over. So, congratulations to you, Mr. Fleetwood, and what a phenomenal PGA Tour season it has been. Next up, Lamar Jackson has been cut. That's right, on Tuesday, we had the NFL preseason cut deadline. For those of you who don't know, 9 days before the NFL season starts, all 32 NFL teams must trim the size of their rosters down from however many people they picked up during the preseason to only 53. And that means, unfortunately, some players' dreams are going to get crushed. And as you can see, we've had some rather interesting names get cut. I already mentioned Lamar Jackson. Now, if you're a Ravens fan, don't worry. Your beloved quarterback is still there. I'm talking about the Falcons' defensive back, the coincidentally named Lamar Jackson. Funny, right? It gets better. Another Falcons DB, Kobe Bryant, also failed to make the 53-man roster. Other cuts include Rams linebacker Chris Paul and Bucs guard Michael Jordan. But perhaps one of the biggest roster cuts also came from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shiloh Sanders, the brother of Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders and the son of the legendary Deion Sanders, was cut from the Bucs roster. This follows a physical altercation that Shiloh was involved in during the Buccaneers' final preseason game against the Buffalo Bills. During the game, Shiloh appeared to punch a Bills defender and was thus promptly ejected. He went on to go unclaimed on waivers, and at this point, his future in football seems rather uncertain. A few potential destinations for him include the Buccaneers practice squad, where he'll only help the guys practice and not get any actual playtime himself. He might go to Cleveland to play with his brother Shedeur, or, get ready for this, he might go up to Toronto to play for the Canadian Football League's Toronto Argonauts. The Argonauts recently added Shiloh Sanders to their negotiations list, which gives them exclusive rights to Shiloh Sanders should he decide to play in the Canadian Football League. Now here's the biggest news out of the NFL. I'm going to talk a little bit about linebacker Micah Parsons. Micah is from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and he is a stud. What I mean by that is he is one of the best linebackers that you are ever going to see. He had a standout career in college at Penn State and was drafted 12th overall in 2021 to the Dallas Cowboys. When he got to the NFL, it was lights out. He was getting tackles, getting sacks left and right. Opposing offenses didn't know what to do with him on the field. He became known as one of the best, if not the best linebacker in the National Football League. Now, given all his impressive accolades, you would think that he would get paid like he's the best, right? Well, you're freaking wrong. You know why? Because the Dallas Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, refuses to negotiate a deal the way everybody else does. Here's the thing. 2024 was the final year of Micah Parsons' rookie contract, and typically at some point immediately before or during that season, players can negotiate and receive a new contract. Except for Micah. Micah still didn't have a new deal done by the end of the 2024 season. Here's where it gets a little sticky. So basically, Jerry Jones said that he believed that him and Micah Parsons already closed the deal. What he was referring to was, I guess, an alleged handshake agreement that took place back in April. It would have made Micah Parsons the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. But according to Jerry, Micah sent the details of this handshake agreement to his agent, and his agent said just to go jump in a lake. He actually phrased it a very different way, but I can't say it on the show. Anyways, fast forward to now. When a rookie's drafted to the NFL in the first round of the draft, part of their contract is what we call a fifth-year option. Basically, that says that if management is really happy with the way they played over the first 4 years of their career, they can make them play on a fifth-year option. The pay for this fifth-year option, it just depends on like if they made like Pro Bowls, which is like the all-star game for the NFL if you didn't know, if they got a lot of playing time and whatnot. And the pay is all right. Depending on how well you did, you get from like $12 to $20 million. But when you're like one of the best players at your position, that's just not enough money. Anyways, what basically happened, according to multiple sources, is that Jerry Jones basically told Micah Parsons, "You're playing on your fifth-year option." And Micah's like, "No, I don't want to do that. You're not going to pay me what you owe me." So what Micah did is he was showing up to practices, he was showing up to preseason games, but he wouldn't suit up and he just wouldn't practice. In fact, in the final preseason game for the Cowboys, Micah Parsons was seen just kind of lying down on a training table. He was completely checked out. And then on Thursday, everything changed. For a couple weeks at this point, tension had been really brewing. Like Micah and Jerry still hadn't come to agreement. There was talks of even like a potential legal battle between them. And other teams were beginning to inquire about potentially trading for the incredible linebacker. And on Thursday, it finally happened. The Green Bay Packers traded for Micah Parsons and signed him to a $188 million deal for 4 years. Now, that is the kind of money that you got to be paying someone who's like the best at their position. That makes Micah Parsons the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history and like the 8,000th player like this year to hold that title. Yeah, there was a lot of money going around the NFL this year. I'm not going to get into all that. But basically, the consensus is that the Dallas Cowboys lost this trade. The Green Bay Packers received Micah Parsons, and in return, they sent the Dallas Cowboys 2 first-round draft picks and defensive tackle Kenny Clark. Now, let's dissect this. Is Kenny Clark good? Yeah, kind of. He's made a couple Pro Bowls in his career, but he's getting old. He's like 30 now, and he's coming off of one of his worst years. So you're not really getting too much value back. And the 2 first-round picks, I mean, sure, that's kind of good. You get to select the best of the college crop when they come into the NFL draft, but it's still pretty unlikely that you're going to use one of those picks to find a replacement for Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a once-in-a-generation player, and you can't just rely on the draft every year to just happen to find a replacement. And besides, keep in mind who these picks are coming from, the Green Bay Packers. Now that they have Micah Parsons, they have a great defense and are expected to do really well this year. And since they're going to do really well, these picks are going to be positioned towards the back end of the first round. In other words, that means all the best of the best college players who are in that year's draft won't be available. And sure, you might find generational defensive talent late in the draft. Remember, the great defensive lineman Max Crosby was drafted in the 4th round of the 2019 NFL draft by the Raiders. But that kind of thing doesn't really happen often. Great linebackers almost always come from like the first half of the first round of NFL drafts. So I don't think the Cowboys are really going to bounce back from this, at least anytime soon. And meanwhile, Green Bay got, like what I keep saying, one of the best, if not the best players at this position currently in the National Football League. He made some questionable managerial decisions back in the 90s, and somehow the Cowboys won a couple Super Bowls back then. And ever since then, Jerry Jones thinks that that's the way to run a football team. But it's not how you run a football team. You gotta pay all your good guys. You gotta hire a great coaching staff. And I'm not saying that new head coach Brian Schottenheimer isn't great, but it's just, why are you doing all this when you have a new head coach? That's the other thing that's bugging me. But honestly, the bottom line of this is I think the main factor is Jerry Jones' own ego. He wanted to barely pay Micah Parsons, or I shouldn't say barely. He didn't want to pay Micah Parsons what he was worth, and Micah wasn't having it, so he decided to leave. Remember, pride comes before the fall, and I think this week we saw a perfect example of that. Now, you really got to feel for Dallas sports fans, right? If you'll remember, back in January, the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic away for basically nothing. And now the Dallas Cowboys traded away Micah Parsons for, again, basically nothing. So what I want to do for the rest of the sports segment is dissect the differences between the Luka Doncic trade and the Micah Parsons trade. First, we got to talk about how the trades happened. So for Luka, he was completely blindsided. Remember, the season before his trade happened, the Mavericks were in the NBA Finals. They lost, but the fact that you're there already means like you got a roster that's built to win. Luka wanted to stay in Dallas for like his entire career, but the Mavs, they just pulled the trigger. The shock factor is huge because like he didn't have any control over this. He didn't get to steer the ship. However, Micah Parsons was the exact opposite. He held out, he forced Jerry Jones' hand to like trade and basically willed this trade to existence. But in both cases, it really makes management look bad because they made a really bad decision. They traded away the star players for, again, basically nothing. Second, let's talk about the aftermath. The Mavs really got lucky. They won the draft lottery, which had a 1.6 chance of happening, which gave them the first overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. And they landed Duke's Cooper Flagg, the most hyped American prospect since like LeBron. Of course, it doesn't erase losing Luka, but hey, a first overall pick is a first overall pick. However, the Cowboys' future is like uncertain. There's no like NBA draft lottery type thing for the NFL. Their draft picks are going to be towards the back of the draft, like I said earlier. And the chances of landing another generational linebacker like Parsons are like near zero. The replacement superstar just isn't on the horizon for the Cowboys. And besides, like we're not talking about the Mavericks anymore. We're just talking about the Cowboys. Think about what this means for the Cowboys in week 1. They are going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, in the NFL kickoff game, which is the very first regular season NFL game every year. I think they're screwed. Look at that offense. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I could go on and on and on. Against what defense? They lost their defensive cornerstone. So who do they got now? In 2024, the Cowboys' defense was inconsistent at best, and that was with Micah Parsons. Now think about it without Micah Parsons. It is just going to be a straight dumpster fire. Don't expect anything good from the Cowboys. They are not going anywhere. Sorry, you know I just like always get really passionate when it comes to football, but Jerry Jones, you're turning America's team into America's thrift store. Well, with that, why don't we get into our wild card of the week? This week I'm going to be talking about ChatGPT. I know y'all know what that is. And in case you're living under a rock and you don't, it is a generative AI service. Basically, people can like text it, ask it anything, and ChatGPT will respond to it. Now, I really like ChatGPT. It helps me organize all my ideas into these episodes every week. But some people use it for really weird things. Case in point, some people are texting ChatGPT like it's their romantic partner. It's so weird. Like they always say something's like, "Good morning, I love you." And since ChatGPT is built to like just respond back in a way that like satisfies the user, they just like return the same lovey-doveyness. And since ChatGPT can like generate artwork, if you can even call it artwork, since it can generate images, they can even send back photos of like them like together. It's strange. But recently ChatGPT dropped a new update. They're trying out this new model called GPT-5, which I guess is supposed to be faster and like it thinks better, it produces better responses. But the thing is, when you switch to a new GPT, it won't remember like all the things you said in like the chat before it switched to this new GPT model. And basically the effect of that was that people were asking or telling ChatGPT all these romantic things, all these lovey-dovey things, but GPT-5 didn't remember them. So they're like, "I'm sorry, what are you talking about?" And what's weird is that like all these people who thought they were like dating the GPT for the longest time were all of a sudden like really depressed. Like, oh no, ChatGPT or like whatever name they like whatever like boyfriend name they gave ChatGPT, like, oh no, ChatGPT forgot about me, I'm so depressed. And to me, I'm sitting over here, it's like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, I don't, like, I'm not trying to like put anyone down or anything, but I'm just like genuinely confused. Like, how do you feel like a sort of romantic bond with a machine? Like, this thing like doesn't have emotions. It's just like coded to like pretend it does. Like, for everyone who like thinks of ChatGPT as if it can like give like the same enjoyment, like in the same like support the same company as like an actual romantic partner can, please just go outside and get some fresh air, enjoy the sun, meet some new people. I don't know. Well, it's been kind of a weird week, but I'm glad I can finally make an episode about it, especially since I couldn't do that last week. And hey, big things are happening next week. We're getting football back on Thursday of this coming week, September 4th, and I'm going to be talking all about it. So, with that, I have been your host, Michael Wong, and until the next Shenanigans.